So I want to talk a little bit about how I got diagnosed with IH. So last May, I got married. My husband and I plan to have a big wedding this coming May, but I'll get to that later. So we got married. I'm a grad student. I only have health insurance. Don't have good vision. He's got the better vision insurance. So I had a breast reduction shortly after, and when I mean shortly after, I mean like 6 days after we got married. So I was like, you know what? Let me make sure that I'm on his insurance so that I can have the better vision care, because I hadn't had an eye exam the whole time that I was in grad school. So I go to the optometrist after, it's like 6 weeks after my breast reduction. So it's like July, I want to say 9th, something like that. So go to the optometrist thinking everything is cool. I've got new, smaller boobs, very excited about this outfit. I'm going to go get margaritas with my friends afterwards. Going to the optometrist thinking everything is good, have a new insurance card that covers a lot of stuff. So I'm just thinking, hey, I'm about to go get cool new glasses. I go in. He asked me, do I want to get my eyes dilated the normal way or with this machine that costs money? I'm like, no, don't do the machine that costs money, because I'm a grad student and it's the summer. And if you're on a fully funded stipend that doesn't pay in the summer, you know, that means that money's tight. So he goes, okay, cool. He dilates my eyes and he looks at him and he goes, not to scare you or anything, but do you have headaches? And I'm thinking, what the fuck? And I said, yeah, every day. And he sits up and he goes, okay, so what I'm going to tell you, it's going to sound scarier than it is, but we need to go and use the machine. I'm not going to charge you, but we need to go and get a better picture of your eyes, because what I think I just saw is what they call pseudotumor cerebri. So I'm immediately panicking, like, do I have to leave here, call my mama? Like, I'm a newlywed. Like, do I have to write a will? The fuck? So he goes, checks my eyes. We kind of bypass. He's telling me all these things, and all I hear is like, wah, 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 wah. I don't know how to process any of this information. So in short, he says, your optic nerves are very swollen and you are at risk of going blind. He says, you need to go and call your doctor before lunch. It's 11:15. So I'm like, okay. Mind you, at this point, my husband works nights, so he was sleeping. So I go home, have to wake him up and tell him all this information. And he says, we typically see pseudotumor cerebri, which is the old name. It's now called Idiopathic Intracranial Hypertension, in women who are overweight and women that are of childbearing age, of which I'm both. So, we don't know why it happens the way it is, hence the idiopathic in the name. But this is something that you should have taken care of immediately. You need to get a referral from your primary care physician in order to have an MRI, an MRV, and you need to get a referral to neurology and neuro-ophthalmology, and you should look into getting a spinal tap to get an official diagnosis. So that man said all of that to me in one day. And I'm just thinking, I just came to get new glasses, and I was supposed to go to Target after this. Like, how am I supposed to process this information? I was just having a regular day. I was just supposed to get margaritas with my girls afterwards. The fuck? So later I get a referral from my primary care physician. She gets me through all of the testing. My spinal tap comes back high. So with IIH, if you have a spinal tap, because that is typically how they diagnose, anything above a 20 is considered high. So borderline high is 20 to 25. Anything above 25 is a definite diagnosis from IH. That's what I was told. I'm borderline. Mine was 24. I had an MRI and an MRV. It was read by the pathologist as normal. So we're going to come back to that later. I see the neuro-ophthalmologist who's like, yeah, your optic nerves are pretty swollen. I was having floaters at the time. I also noticed that I was having some issues with my peripheral vision, which I had jokingly said to my parents, hey, I'm hitting a lot of curbs. Like, my husband would also be in the car like, yo, my driving, it wasn't bad, but I was cutting these curbs a little short. I noticed when I was walking and I was cutting corners because there were just things like right here that I wasn't seeing and I wasn't aware of that. I'd been having daily headaches for 2.5 years at that point because I was thinking, hey, I'm a PhD student. I'm stressed. We had moved from Wisconsin to Tennessee. So I'm thinking, temperature changes, pollen changes. I was able to give it a reason. But I was also having these visual symptoms that no one could explain. I kept mentioning it to my doctors, and they just kept saying, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. I've had a history of headaches and migraines ever since I was a kid, and so they kept just changing my medication, saying it's these other things. I finally got a diagnosis of what it was, and it was IH. So that finally made me feel validated. Because, hey, I finally knew what the hell was going on with me. I remember complaining to my advisor, I want to say 3 months into my PhD, that I was feeling fatigued all the time. I was nauseous all the time. Like, it got to the point where I'm taking pregnancy test after pregnancy test. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, how? No, it's because apparently where the spinal fluid increases, it must push on whatever part of your brain is the trigger for nausea. Because for me, with my IH, my symptoms are headaches, migraines, pressure in my brain, pressure in my ears, nausea, vertigo. Oh gosh, I'm forgetting some things. I get this ice pick sensation in my ear. I have neck pain. I have back pain. I have brain fog. I have memory loss. I have a whole notebook of written down symptoms because I know that that's just a few of them. So I was having all of these symptoms for about 2 years, and they were intermittent at times. It didn't get to be constant until probably about a year ago. Till really right after I had the breast reduction, because I think I went under anesthesia, and that kind of just brought everything forward. Because I had a migraine, and then after that post-anesthesia migraine, everything went downhill from there. So at one point, after having all of these tests done, and it was actually kind of funny how these tests got done quickly, because the doctor calls me and says, hey, we need to get you scheduled for these things. When are you available? I tell them when I'm available. They call back and they're like, hey, your chart says this is urgent. And I'm like, they said, are you available to come in tomorrow? So it went from, okay, you need to have this done, to you're having an MRI done tomorrow, to you're having a spinal tap done tomorrow. All of these things were done with a sense of urgency. Next thing I know, I'm being put on medication to protect my eyesight. And so in doing all of this, that's when I started doing the research on what I could do. And I started tracking how my sodium intake could affect this, how vitamin A intake could affect this. So I started doing what I could naturally, because I didn't like the medication that I was on. I had an allergic reaction to Diamox. I had to advocate for myself to get off of that. That's another story for another day. I was switched to topiramate, which I've had a lot of better success with. Still don't really care for it, but it's a little better. But so you see a lot of me cooking here because cooking has helped. I've reduced the swelling in my optic nerves, but I still have all of these symptoms. But hey, at least the bitch is gonna go blind.